Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's teacher credential orientation session. I am going to allow just maybe a few more minutes for additional students to log in, so we'll get started shortly. All right, so while we're allowing additional students to log in, I would just like to start with some housekeeping items. So once again, welcome to today's teacher credential orientation session. My name is Jean Reynaga, and I am the Teacher Preparation and Recruitment Advisor in the College of Education and Integrative Studies. I did mute everyone when you entered today's meeting, and that's just to allow everyone the opportunity to hear the information being presented. But I will allow time at the end of the session for Q&A, at which point you can unmute yourself and ask questions. In the meantime, feel free to use the chat feature. If you think of a question, you want to jot it down. I will pause periodically throughout the presentation to take a look at those questions and address them as we proceed through the slides. Additionally, I am recording today's session, and I will send you a link to the recording so you could review this should you need to at a later time. And I'll also send you a copy of the PowerPoint. So no need to try and write down everything that's on the screens. Some of the screens do contain a lot of information. So what I recommend is, just sit back, listen to the information, write down any questions or comments or notes you have, and then we can ask questions at the end of the session. Or if you prefer a more one-on-one session, I'm more than happy to meet with you at a future date when we find a time that works best for both of us. All right. So before we get started, can everyone hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback and the thumbs up. Okay, so obviously all of you guys are here to become a teacher. And with Cal Poly Pomona, we have several features that I would like to highlight that I feel that kind of make our program stand out from some of the other options you may have when selecting a credential program. First, we have what's called a learn by doing philosophy. And what that means is not only are you going to get book knowledge, content knowledge from your readings, your lectures, but you're also going to get hands-on real-world experience that you can then apply to your own classroom once you're hired by a district or an employer. And this is valuable experience that you can kind of learn, grow, apply as you go through the program. Additionally, we have amazing faculty and staff that are here to support you on your journey. So you're never alone in the program. There's always someone you can reach out to for support and guidance as far as how to meet your goals of becoming a teacher. Also, we do have flexibility in our course offerings. We do offer courses in the mornings, afternoons, and evenings, with the majority of the courses offered in the evenings to accommodate the working student, as well as students who may already be teaching in the classroom. And then some of our courses are offered in a hybrid format, so you might not have to come to campus for every class meeting. And then lastly, I will say that when you look at funding your education, as far as, how do I pay for all the tuition and fees that are associated with the credential program, we do have financial aid that is available, as well as there are scholarships and grants. So I do provide slides at the end of today's session that kind of connect you with the financial aid counselor, as well as the different types of scholarships and grants available for teachers or for students interested in becoming a teacher. So stay tuned. I think you're going to like what you hear from today's presentation. On the screen, you do see a short agenda for today. I'm going to talk briefly about credentialing in California. I'll then move into the credential programs offered at Cal Poly Pomona. I'll discuss the application process as well as deadlines, and then some additional credential information that I want to share with you for those of you who may not be aware of some options for you. Okay, so In California, the agency that oversees credentialing is called the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, or CTC, and they outline all the requirements that you need to complete to become a teacher, and they're listed here on the lower portion of the slide. It does include, you do need to have a bachelor's degree to become a teacher. Additionally, you will need to satisfy two requirements. One is called the basic skills requirement, and the other one is called the subject matter competence requirement. And I'll go over those in a little bit further detail in subsequent slides as far as how to meet those requirements. Item number 4, for those of you pursuing the multiple subject credential or the education specialist credential to either teach at the elementary levels or special education, you will need to pass what's called the Reading Instruction Competence Assessment, or RICA exam. For those of you pursuing the single subject credential to teach at the middle school or high school level, you are not required to pass the RICA. Item 5 is you will need to complete a course in the provisions and principles of the U.S. Constitution. For those of you who graduate or will graduate from a California State University campus, a CSU campus, you meet U.S. Constitution upon graduation. If you are not attending a CSU campus or maybe graduated from a private university or a UC campus, there might be a course in your undergraduate studies that fulfills the U.S. Constitution requirement. And I have a list of California colleges and universities. You can email me, where you graduated from, and I could look up that institution and let you know which course meets the U.S. Constitution requirement. If you didn't take such a course in your undergraduate studies, you can always take an online U.S. Constitution course sometime in the program. Item 6 is you will need to complete what's called a commission-approved teacher preparation program, and Cal Poly Pomona's programs are commission-approved. And lastly, you will need to obtain a formal recommendation for the credential by a program sponsor, and that typically comes from the credential program that you complete. Once you've fulfilled all of those items, your program would recommend you to the commission for the teacher credential. The commission will review everything, and if everything is met, they'll issue you your preliminary teacher credential, and then you can go teach in a public WASC-accredited school in California. Now, at Cal Poly Pomona, we offer several different types of programs to earn your teacher credential. We have combined programs, we have credential-only programs. In addition to our teacher credential programs, we also have what's called an administrative services credential program, as well as added authorizations. So depending on your educational goals, will determine which program you pursue. So starting with our combined programs, we have two types. We have a combined credential and bachelor's program, and we have a combined credential and master's program. Starting with the combined credential and bachelor's program, or another name that we call it is the Integrated Teacher Education Program, or ITEP. And this is a combined 4-year bachelor's degree program where you get to earn your credential within those 4 years. And you have the option to major in either liberal studies or early childhood studies, and pursue the education specialist credential to teach special education, either for mild to moderate support needs or extensive support needs. Now, this program is very specific in that those are your only options with the integrated program. If you're interested in a single subject credential or the multiple subject credential, the ITEP program is not appropriate for your educational goals, only because those options are not allowed with this program. This is only for those interested in becoming a special education teacher and pursuing either the liberal studies bachelor's or the early childhood studies bachelor's. The combined credential and master's program allows you to combine a Master's of Arts in Education with the credentials, either single subject, multiple subject, or education specialists. And for the Master's of Arts in Education programs, we have two options: curriculum and instruction, or special education. And these master's programs are 31 units on top of the credential units. The way the combined program works is students must first apply to and be admitted to the credential to pursue the master's. And once you're admitted to the credential program, you can begin taking master's courses once admitted to the credential program. Additionally, you're eligible to transfer up to 3 of your credential courses, up to 9 units, to be applied towards the master's. In order for your credential courses to be eligible to be transferred towards the master's, you do need to earn a grade of B or higher. So you just want to make sure you do well in your credential courses so that they're eligible to be transferred towards the master's. And you must complete the credential in order to be issued the master's degree once you finish the credential coursework and the master's coursework. Going back just real quick to the combined credential and master's program, after you're admitted to the credential program, you will meet with a master's faculty advisor, and they will advise you on the master's courses as well as which credential courses they will accept. And once you're ready to begin taking master's courses, you'll submit a form requesting to add the master's to your credential program. So you don't have to reapply for the master's, because once you're admitted to the credential program, you just need to submit a form to add the master's. For our credential programs, we have 3 types, starting with the multiple subject credential, which is a 42-unit program and can be completed in 3 to 4 semesters, full-time attendance. The multiple subject credential authorizes the holder to teach multiple subjects in self-contained classrooms, in preschool, grades K through 12, and in classes organized primarily for adults. Self-contained classrooms are classrooms where there's one teacher and you teach the same group of students all of the subjects: math, science, reading, history. Those are considered self-contained classrooms, and self-contained classrooms are typically found at the elementary level. The single subject credential is a 36-unit program and can be completed in 3 to 4 semesters, full-time attendance. The single subject credential authorizes the holder to teach a single subject in departmentalized classrooms, in preschool, grades K through 12, and in classes organized primarily for adults. Departmentalized classrooms are classrooms where there's one teacher and you teach a different group of students every hour or every period, similar to what you may have experienced at the middle school and high school levels. For the single subject credential, we offer several disciplines or subject areas, and I listed them on the screen in 2 columns in alphabetical order. As long as you see the subject area listed, we do offer that for the single subject credential. If for some reason you don't see a particular subject area, for example, business, what that means is Cal Poly Pomona does not offer a single subject business credential. If you are interested in the single subject business credential, you would need to seek out a program that offers business as a subject area for the single subject credential. Additionally, you'll notice that some of the subject areas have an asterisk next to them. And what that means is at the undergraduate level, we have commission-approved subject matter preparation programs. And if you complete those programs, you can qualify for subject matter for the credential if you completed the pre-credential track for those particular subject areas. The third type of teacher credential program that we offer is the Education Specialist program. And we have 2 options: mild to moderate support needs, which is 45 units, or extensive support needs, which is 48 units. These programs can be completed in 4 to 5 semesters, full-time attendance. And these programs authorize the holder to teach the subject area of their credential to students with either mild to moderate support needs or extensive support needs in kindergarten through the 12th grade and up to the age of 22. Now, for our credential programs, we also have part-time attendance available. As far as the time frame it takes to complete the program on a part-time status, it depends on the pace that the student sets for themselves. So for example, in some cases, students may only be able to take 2 courses each semester. So that might spread out their credential coursework over 6 semesters, which is about 3 years, or some students spread it out over 7 semesters or 8 semesters. So, you have the option to attend on a part-time status. Just know that it will extend the time it takes to complete the program. As far as the time frame to complete the master's with the credential, again, it depends on the pace that you set for yourself. As an example, if you complete the credential full-time in 3 to 4 semesters and take master's courses alongside credential courses, it is possible to complete the master's in 1 additional semester from the credential. However, some students decide to do their credential courses first and then tackle the master's. And that in that scenario, it would probably take the student 1 to 2 years after the credential to finish the master's. Now, moving on to another type of credential that we offer is called the Administrative Services Credential. And this is for current educators seeking to become a school site administrator, vice principal, or even working up at the district level. The Administrative Services Credential program is 24 units, and it can be completed in 3 semesters, fall, spring, and summer. And additionally, it can also be combined with the Master's of Arts in Educational Leadership. And you'll need 3 additional courses on top of the Administrative Services Credential courses to complete the master's. And for this, if you do combine it with the master's, you can complete it in a 4th semester. So in 2 years, you'd have your Administrative Services Credential and the Master's of Arts in Educational Leadership. And the last type of programs that we offer are called added authorizations. An added authorization is an authorization that you add on to a multiple subject, single subject, or education specialist credential. And we offer 3 types of added authorizations. We have the agriculture specialist, we have an adaptive physical education added authorization, and then we have the bilingual added authorization. For the bilingual added authorization, you can earn that in either Spanish or Chinese, Mandarin or Cantonese. And next to the added authorizations, I did include the units required, and those units are on top of your credential coursework units. Additionally, you do have the option to work on your added authorization units concurrently with your credential courses, or you can focus on your credential courses first and then tackle the added authorization units. Now, for our credential programs, we have 2 different pathways or routes in which you can complete the program. We have the standard or traditional route, and then we have what's called the teacher intern route. Coursework and exam requirements are exactly the same for both routes. The difference between the 2 routes is the manner in which the program is completed. So for the standard or traditional route, you do all of your credential coursework first, and in your last semester of the program, you will complete clinical practice or student teaching. The Office of Clinical Practice will place you in one of the 40+ districts that we partner with, and you will be assigned to a classroom and work with a host teacher for the entire semester for clinical practice. For the teacher intern pathway, because you are hired and working full-time for a district, you are fulfilling clinical practice requirements throughout the program. Now, everyone starts out in the program on the standard or traditional route. And the reason for that is in order to move over to the teacher intern pathway, you do have to fulfill the intern eligibility requirements. Once you fulfill the intern eligibility requirements, you can then move over to the teacher intern pathway. But again, coursework and exam requirements are exactly the same for the teacher intern route as they are for the standard or traditional route. And again, you fulfill the clinical practice requirements in your own classroom because you're the teacher of record. Now, I will note that the university does not assist students in finding a teacher intern position. However, students are free to seek them out on your own. If you are approached by a district or an employer who wants to hire you and they ask you if you're intern eligible, at that point you would, there's a form you'll fill out and reach out to the department. We'll review your coursework and your exams to see if you're eligible. And then if you are, we'll provide you with a letter that you can then give to your employer or district to be hired as a teacher intern. All right, so those are all of our credential programs. Hopefully I've piqued your interest and you're ready to apply to a credential program. At Cal Poly, there's 3 admitting terms that you can apply to a credential program. We have a spring start, summer start, and a fall start. Each of the admitting terms has a different application deadline. So depending on what term you want to start up the program, you will need to pay attention to what the application deadline is for that term. Our next admitting term is fall 2023, and the application deadline is April 1st, 2023. For those of you interested in applying for spring 2024 admission, The application deadline is September 15th, 2023. Now, when you apply to Cal Poly, there's two applications that you will need to complete and submit. There's the Cal State Apply application and there's a program application. Both applications must be completed and submitted by the application deadline of the term that you apply for. If you submit one application and not the other, your application will be considered incomplete, and incomplete applications are denied. So two applications, the applications are on two different websites. Cal State Apply is on the Cal State Apply website, and there is a $70 application fee for that application. The program application is on Cal Poly Pomona's Credential website, and there is a $25 application fee. That's listed here on this slide as number 11. It's $25. And all of these 11 items are required to be submitted with the program application. So starting with the first item, the early field experience. This is a requirement where the department wants to see that you have at least 45 hours of early field experience. And this can come from different types of settings. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to briefly take you to our website so that you can take a look at the form in which you will log your hours for the early field experience. So let me reshare my screen. And then it also lists the sample settings of where you can complete those hours. So this is our Credential Programs website. For those of you who've never been on our website, I am going to put it in the chat so you have that as a reference. And then I'll show you where to get the program application requirements. So if you scroll down on the screen, just on the left-hand side, around the fifth heading is admission. When you click on admission, you'll see two subheadings pop down. The first one is admission information. And I want to just let you know that our application deadlines are always listed on our website. So if you forget what the deadlines are, you can find it here on our website. The second subheading underneath the heading admission is program application. And when you click on there, it'll take you to our program application requirements, which includes a link to the Cal State Apply application and a link to our program application. And then additionally, it lists all of the 11 items that I included on the slide that are required with the program application. So the first item, early field experience. When you click on that link, it takes you to the form, and you're going to use this form to log your hours. The top paragraph explains the requirement, a minimum of 45 hours that occurred within the last 4 years. And that can come from college course practicum or field observations, paid employment, and/or volunteer experience. When you scroll down to section A, you'll see the different settings that you can complete these hours. And that does include a TK through 12 classroom volunteer, teacher's aide or paraprofessional, substitute teacher, adult transition aide or volunteer, after school program aide or volunteer, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, YMCA, coaching or assistant coaching. Any of those types of settings can qualify, but please keep in mind that the department wants to see the experience to include the age group of the students the credential being pursued will allow you to teach. So for example, if you're interested in becoming an elementary school teacher and pursuing the multiple subject credential, your experience must include students in grades TK through grade 6, students in the elementary grade levels. For one pursuing a single subject credential to teach at the middle school and high school levels, the experience must include students in middle school and/or high school, grades 7 through 12. And then the education specialist credential, you can have experience that includes grades kindergarten through the 12th grade. Once your hours are complete, you will log them on this form, filling out sections B through E, so approximate ages of the students, the dates of your experience, total hours. If you're using more than one setting or site, you can combine the hours and list it here on the form. And then a brief explanation of what you did in your role interacting with the students. And at the bottom of the form, you'll notice in section F that a supervisor who is verifying your hours will need to sign and date the form. And then once the form is completed, you will upload it in the program application. If you are using more than one site, you'll need one form per site. The second item on the program application requirements is the certificate of clearance. And the certificate of clearance is issued by the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And before they'll issue that document, they do require the individual to be fingerprinted or live scanned because they want to do a background check. Excuse me. And then you will need to go onto the Commission's website and submit an application for the certificate of clearance. Now, there are other Commission documents that you can submit in lieu of a certificate as long as they're valid. For example, if you have a 30-day emergency substitute teaching permit or any of the child development permits, you can submit those in lieu of the certificate of clearance. Keep in mind those documents must be valid. If you don't have a 30-day emergency substitute teacher permit or any of the child development permits, then you will most likely apply for the certificate of clearance. Item 3 and 4, there are basic skills and subject matter competency requirements. So let me jump back into our PowerPoint because I do provide the different details about the both of those requirements. So with the basic skills requirement, it does look at your math, reading, and writing proficiencies. And the Commission outlines 8 different options that you can use to meet basic skills. And I listed them here on this screen. So any of these options you can use to meet basic skills. You can take and pass the CBEST, the California Basic Educational Skills Test. Or option 2, you can pass the CSET for multiple subjects, plus the writing skills CSET exam. And those exams will meet basic skills for the credential. Option 3 is if you participated in the CSU Early Assessment Program or took any of the CSU placement examinations and achieved a qualifying score, you can use that for basic skills. Option 4 is if you achieved a qualifying score on the SATs or ACTs, you can use that for basic skills. Option 5 is if you took College Board Advanced Placement exams, AP exams for English or math in high school, and achieved a score of 3 or higher, you can use that for basic skills. Option 6, you can pass a basic skills exam from another state. Option 7, you can use coursework taken at the community college or university level for math, reading, and writing. As long as you earned a grade of B or higher in those courses, you can use that for basic skills. And then lastly, option 8, you can use a combination of exams and coursework. Again, now, any one of those options will meet basic skills. If you decide to use coursework for basic skills, you're not required to take the CBEST because you're using option 7 to meet basic skills. The only time you need to take the CBEST is if you were choosing that as the option to demonstrate basic skills to the Commission. Now, I will send you an email after today's session, which includes links to these items as well as the qualifying scores. So you can take a look at that and see maybe if you meet basic skills with your SAT scores or your AP exams. You can take a look at that to reference. Now, the second item that you need to meet is subject matter competency. And with subject matter competency, the Commission has outlined 5 options available to you. And what subject matter competency is, the state wants to know that you are competent in your subject matter to be able to teach it to others. And you can take, for option 1, you can take the CSET, the California Subject Examinations for Teachers. Option 2 is you can complete what's called a Commission-approved subject matter preparation program. Commission-approved subject matter preparation programs are typically completed at the undergraduate level and in the subject area of the credential being pursued. So if you recall earlier in the presentation, I showed you the list of single subject areas that had an asterisk next to them. Those are all of Cal Poly's commission-approved subject matter programs at the undergraduate level. If you completed those programs, you can use that to meet subject matter and not have to take the CSEP. If you didn't attend Cal Poly in your undergraduate studies, let's say you went to a UC campus, you would need to go back to your campus to inquire if the program you completed is a commission-approved subject matter preparation program. Option 3 is you can use coursework to demonstrate subject matter competency. Option 4 is if you have an academic major that's a direct match to the credential being pursued, you could use that for subject matter. So for example, if you majored in mathematics, you have a bachelor's degree in mathematics and you're pursuing a single subject math credential, your bachelor's degree in mathematics could meet subject matter for the single subject math credential. Or let's say you have a bachelor's degree in liberal studies and you're pursuing either the multiple subject credential or the education specialist credential. Your bachelor's degree in liberal studies can be used to meet subject matter for either of those credentials. And the last example I provided is if you have a bachelor's degree in English and you're pursuing a single subject English credential, you could meet subject matter with your bachelor's degree. It has to be a direct match. And then option 5 is a combination of exams and coursework. So any of those options will qualify. And you do have to have, in order to be admitted to a credential program, you do have to have subject matter verified as well as basic skills verified for admittance. All right, continuing on with the program application requirements, item number 5, you will need to submit a current negative TB test. And TB tests are valid for 4 years. So if you had one done recently, you can submit that TB test. Please keep in mind, though, that the TB test needs to be on current and on file throughout your time in the program. So if your TB test expires while you're in the program, at that point, you would need to get a new one. Item number 6 is the statement of purpose, and that's an essay that you'll need to write. And on our website, we do include the prompts that they want you to address in the statement. Let me just take us really quickly right back there. In addition, they also provide you with the criteria for completing the statement. So statement of purpose is item number 6. And within 2 to 3 pages, 600 to 900 words, they want you to address these 2 prompts: your personal and professional qualities that you possess that will enable you to become an effective teacher in a culturally and linguistically diverse classroom, as well as your expectations of the program to help you to become an effective teacher. You'll type that out in a Word document and then you'll upload that in the program application. Item number 7 is our minimum GPA requirement to be admitted. You will need to have a minimum overall undergraduate, and if you did any post-baccalaureate coursework, GPA of at least 2.5. As long as you meet the minimum, you're okay. If for some reason your GPA falls below the 2.5, it doesn't automatically disqualify you for consideration for admission. But what it means is you'll need to submit an additional statement with your program application in which you outline the circumstances that contributed to the inability to meet the GPA requirement. And the department will take that statement into consideration when they review your application. Items 8 and 9 are our recommendations. We have 2 of them. We have an academic recommendation, which can be completed by a college or university professor who was your instructor. And then the experience with youth recommendation can be completed by a professional who's directly observed you work or interact with the youth for a minimum of 20 hours in a TK through 12 setting. Now, our recommendation forms are electronic, so you're not going to submit a traditional recommendation letter. All you need to provide are the names and email addresses of the 2 individuals. And once you submit your program application, we will email those individuals a link to the electronic form, and they will complete the form electronically. Item number 10 is our program orientation. This is an orientation that's presented by our program coordinators, and it is specific by program. So all of the multiple subject applicants will attend the multiple subject orientation. All of the single subject applicants will attend the single subject orientation, and all the education specialist applicants will attend the education specialist orientation. Now, when you click on the link listed here it'll take you to our orientation page, and then you can scroll down and see the dates of our upcoming program orientations. The last orientation we had was on January 23rd. There should be an upcoming orientation in March. We're finalizing the date, so our website's not yet updated, but once the date is finalized, it will be listed on the website. They're held through Zoom and at 4 p.m. And you don't need to RSVP for either the single subject or the multiple subject orientations. The Zoom link is provided and you just need to join the session the day of. For those applying for the education specialist credential, you'll need to scroll up and click on education specialist orientation. And they actually have a form to register. So when you click on the link, the next education specialist orientation is on March 8th. And that's at 5 p.m. It's also done through Zoom. And Dr. Heather Taylor presents the education specialist orientation. Now, if for some reason you cannot attend the day of, let's say you have class in the evening, or you work, or you have another commitment, for the education specialist, I do recommend emailing Dr. Taylor so that she can let you know how to move forward with attending maybe a different orientation. For multiple and single subject applicants, you can view a previously recorded session. So just above the dates, when you click on multiple subject, for an example, pre-recorded orientation, there's a link there that will take you to a previously recorded session, and you can view it on your own time. Same thing for the single subject. There's a previously recorded session that you can view at your convenience. And those program orientations are going to go over more specifically the details of your time in the program, coursework, clinical practice, student teaching, the teacher performance assessments that are required to be completed during the program. So it's very informative, and will just kind of help orient you to the particular program that you're pursuing. And then lastly is the credential evaluation fee, which is the program application fee. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a link to the Cal State Apply application right here. And then the program application, which I just want to take us to really quickly. This first screen is going to summarize everything that's needed. But to actually go into the application, you'll need to scroll down and click next. And then you'll start inputting your information as far as when you're applying to the program. For all of those items that we talked about, the TB test, the certificate of clearance, your basic skills requirement, statement of purpose, each screen is going to tell you what you need to upload. This is the statement of purpose screen, which will upload your statement there. All of the other items are mostly uploaded on the very last screen. So that's where you will attach all of your documents. All right, so that's everything you need to apply to the credential program. I know that's a lot of information. So I wanted you to be aware that you're not alone through this process. For any questions that you have while you're applying, either to the Cal State Apply or the program application, you can reach out to myself. And let me take you really quickly to our the information screen. My email and phone number, you can call me, you can email me, we can schedule a one-on-one appointment. If you're on campus, you can stop by my office. I'm in building 6 in room 209. Once you're admitted to the program, you will be assigned to a credential analyst, and they assist students by program. So Jennifer Garcia is the credential analyst for the single subject credential program, and Amy Acuna is the credential analyst for the multiple subject and education specialist programs. And their emails and phone numbers are provided, as well as their room locations. So at any point, whether you're applying to the program or you're in the program, you always have someone who's there to assist you with your questions. All right, I'm just checking on our time. Just a few more slides before we open it up to Q&A. So for those of you who are currently attending Cal Poly Pomona as an undergraduate, the department does allow you to begin taking credential foundation courses in your undergraduate studies if you so choose. You do need to have junior or senior standing. These are not prerequisites. This is just an opportunity for you to begin taking credential courses should you decide. And the Credential Foundation courses are listed on the slide by program. For those of you who are not currently a Cal Poly Pomona undergrad, unfortunately, it's not possible to begin taking these courses. You would first have to apply and be admitted to begin taking credential courses. Again, this is just for our current students. And if you are a current Cal Poly Pomona student, before you enroll in these courses, I do recommend that you reach out to your major department just to make sure that you're on track with your undergraduate degree. Because if you don't finish your undergraduate degree, you won't be able to be admitted to a credential program. So I wouldn't recommend taking credential courses over your undergraduate courses. But if you have room in your schedule and you would like to, you can take these. You don't need a permission number. You can just enroll in them as long as you have junior or senior standing. Now, one of these last areas I wanted to share with you guys, in some cases, some of you might be interested in two different types of credentials. And in California, once you earn an initial credential, you can add a second credential. And you might not necessarily have to do an entire new program, depending on what types of credentials you hold and the credentials you're adding. So in these scenarios listed on the slide, if you earn a multiple subject credential, you start teaching, it's great, you love it, but you're also interested in teaching maybe single subject English, and you want to add a single subject English credential. You would do that by taking a single subject methods course for teaching English and demonstrating subject matter competency for English. Once you fulfill those two items, you would apply directly to the commission to add your second credential. It also works the other way. Let's say you have a single subject credential, you're teaching physical education, you love it, it's great, but after so many years you're looking for a change and you want to add a multiple subject credential, you can do that by fulfilling 4 requirements. You'll need to take a multiple subject methods course as well as a reading course. You'll need to demonstrate subject matter competency for multiple subjects and pass the RECA exam. Once you fulfill those 4 items, you would apply directly to the commission for your second credential. And if everything looks good, they would add the multiple subject credential to your single subject physical education credential. And then the last scenario, let's say you have a single subject social science credential, you're teaching history, but you also have a desire or passion to teach art. So you can add a single subject art credential to your single subject social science credential by taking a single subject methods course for teaching art and then demonstrating subject matter competency for art. Now, some of you might be thinking, why would one person want more than 1 credentials? And I kind of shared some examples or reasons in the examples I provided, but additionally, it might also make you a little bit more marketable to districts if you have more than 1 credential. So something to think about. If you're not sure about adding a second credential, you can pursue just your first credential. And then once you're ready to pursue the second credential, you can reach out to us and we can let you know how to fulfill the additional requirements. Now, this option is also available for the education specialist credential. However, because you're working with a different population of students, it does require more coursework and a second round of clinical practice. So I didn't list the requirements on the slide. What we recommend is if you are interested in adding an education specialist credential to either the multiple subject or single subject credential, or vice versa, if you have a multiple subject or single subject and you want to add the education specialist credential, reach out to the department. They will review your initial credential and then let you know what you need to do to add the second credential. And then finally, I did want you to be aware that we do have what's called a course equivalency request process. And in this process, this is for anyone who may have taken credential coursework at another institution and would like to petition to see if that coursework is equivalent to one of Cal Poly Pomona's courses. And you can petition up to 12 semester units for course equivalencies. The department will consider course equivalencies for courses that meet the 7-year policy, meaning they were taken within the last 7 years. Courses taken more than 7 years ago, unfortunately, are considered too old and not eligible for course equivalency. If you do want to submit a course, you will need to submit the course equivalency form, a copy of official transcripts showing the courses that you took and the grade that you earned, a catalog course description of those courses from the year that you took them, a copy of the syllabus, and then verification or documentation of fieldwork if it was completed in those courses that you took. Once the department receives your documents, it takes them about 4 to 6 weeks to review and get back to you with a decision. If course equivalency is determined, then you don't have to take the equivalent Cal Poly Pomona course. However, if course equivalency is not determined, then you will have to take the Cal Poly Pomona courses as originally scheduled or planned. Okay, so that's everything that I had planned for you today. I know that's a lot of information. Please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself, or if you want to enter any questions in the chat, you can do that as well.
Hi, I was just wondering if you'd share the presentation with us through email.
Yes,
or
I will send
okay.
a copy to you after today's session.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I had a question.
Sure.
So I'm graduating in June with my bachelor's, and I'm thinking of like returning again and being part of the teaching credential. So I was wondering, because I have to close out my financial aid. I was wondering, do I have to do you know anything about if I have to redo everything again just to be part of that, or?
Well, you will need to, so once you graduate with you finish your bachelor's program, you're considered a program completer, and then you're no longer a student. So in order to be admitted to the credential program, you have to reapply to Cal Poly and submit the program application to be considered for admission.
I see. Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. And just because you mentioned financial aid, if you are interested in financial aid, the Office of Financial Aid and Scholarships recommends that you submit the FAFSA at the same time that you apply to the credential program.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. I do see some questions in the chat. Can I apply for the foundational math and then take the third CSET and change it to math after? Celeste, yes, you can apply for foundational level math. Depending on where you are in the program, if it's early enough, you might be able to change it to the full math credential. If passage of the third exam doesn't happen until, let's say you're already in clinical practice, for the foundational level math, you could always add the full math after you finish the single subject foundational level. So it kind of just depends on when you pass that third exam that you'll be able to make that change, or stay where you are and then add the full math afterwards. I see another question from Jack. Were the requirements for application that we reviewed for both Cal State Apply and Credential Program application, or are there separate requirements for Cal State Apply? Cal State Apply is going to have not necessarily different requirements, but it is going to ask you to fill out where you've completed your bachelor's degree. It's going to ask for your GPA. It's going to ask for your personal information. So you shouldn't need to upload anything in the Cal State Apply application. All the uploads should only be in the program application, those were the items that I covered specifically, those 11 items. I see another question from Kevin, and Dominic, I do see your hand raised, and Robinson as well, so I'll get to you just after Kevin's question. Where can I find tuition costs for the program? Great question, Kevin. So in the PowerPoint, I do provide some tuition information. So on the left-hand side, I did copy and paste the credential fee schedule. And the way tuition works at Cal Poly is it's based on the classification of the student, whether you're an undergrad, credential, graduate, or doctoral, and the number of units you take in the semester. So if you take 0 to 6 units, you'll pay about $2,700 for the semester. If you take 6.1 and above units, you'll pay about $4,100 for the semester. Now, to give you a ballpark estimate, if you complete the multiple subject or single subject credential programs in 3 semesters, that's about 12 to 15 units each semester, your cost will be about $12,600. For those pursuing the education specialist credential, if you complete those programs in 4 to 5 semesters, which is around same thing, 12 to 15 units a semester, it will cost you $16,800. And this is based on the fall 2022 fee schedule. Please note that the university does update their fee schedules every semester. So these are estimates. The fee schedule or these estimates could vary depending on when you come to the program if the university updates their fee schedules. And again, this is just tuition and fees. Dominic, I see you have a question.
Yes, I have a couple questions. If you're currently completing your practicum hours, how do you fill out your early field experience verification? Do you just assume they're gonna complete the 40, or do you just not apply until you're done?
You have to have the 40 hours completed when you submit your application.
Okay. So then I won't be able to apply for the April deadline, the April 1st deadline?
How many hours will you have completed by April 1st?
I think maybe because I just started 2 weeks ago, so I probably by April 1st I'll have like about 20 hours.
Okay. Between now and April 1st, are there any other opportunities for you to obtain those additional 25 hours?
I believe so.
So, and also remember, anything within the last 4 years you can use. So if you, let's say you coached soccer 2 years ago, you can list those hours. Anything within the last 4 years in any of those settings listed on the form, you could possibly use for early field experience.
Okay, second question is, do you have to attend an orientation before you apply?
You can submit the applications before attending the orientation. You just have to have the orientation completed by the deadline. So,
Okay.
because the education specialist orientation is on March 7th, or is it March 8th? One of those two. You can submit your applications before then, and then they'll verify your attendance at those orientation through the Zoom participant list.
And that's the same if they do a pre-recorded orientation?
Yes. Now the multiple subject for the multiple subject applicants, there's a form included on the website that you'll need to fill out after you view the session, and that's how they verify your attendance.
Oh, okay. You mentioned a course equivalency.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in exchange for the CSET?
No, that's different. So
Right.
course equivalency is if, let's say you attended Cal State Fullerton and you took a course, maybe that's required as a prerequisite for their credential program, and you want to see if that course is equivalent to one of ours.
Okay. Is there any sort of like where you can like because I spoke to someone else, she said she didn't have to take the CSET because of her prior coursework.
There is a form for subject matter that you can submit if you want to request to have your coursework reviewed for subject matter, but that's a different form.
Okay. Lastly, how do you go about applying for accommodations? Because I lost all ability in my right hand, which is my dominating hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually have to type up all my assignments. So how does that go about? And as far as the CBEST and the on-demand writing sample.
For any exam that you take, for example, if you take the CSIT or the CBEST, the exam website, you can request accommodations. For the on-demand writing sample, we would need to check with the program coordinator. Are you applying for a multiple subject, single subject, or education specialist?
Single subject.
So the program coordinator for the single subject credential program is Dr. David Newman. and we could reach out to him to request accommodations for the on-demand writing sample.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Robinson, go ahead.
Hi, I was wondering if you're able to disclose what the general acceptance rate is for the single subject program.
I don't have I don't have the breakdown between programs. I could tell you overall. So for all of our credential programs, typically they admit anywhere between 65 to 75% of applicants. Of the 25 to 35% that are denied, a majority of those are because they're missing any of those 11 items. So in the program application, let's say you've submitted it, everything is turned in, but one of your recommenders doesn't fill out the form. If a recommender doesn't submit their recommendation, the application is considered incomplete, and incomplete applications are denied. So a majority of that percentage is denied for that reason. And then a smaller percentage may be denied because either due to the low GPA or the student didn't do well on the group interview or the on-demand writing sample.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I see a question for Melissa in the chat. For the CSET requirement or subject matter, do we have to have the test scores received, or would a scheduled test be sufficient for application purposes? So Melissa, in order to be admitted, you do have to have subject matter verified. If you're using the CSET for verification, let's say you apply by April 1st and you take the exam March 15th. Now keep in mind, it does take about 5 to 7 weeks to get your CSET results. So if you apply by April 1st and you're waiting for your scores, you can submit your passing scores no later than May 1st. On May 1st, applications with passing scores will be moved forward for consideration for admission. Applications without passing scores will be considered incomplete, and incomplete applications are denied. So you do have to have verification to be admitted. So your goal would be to have your scores before April 1st or before the deadline. But if you don't have them by the deadline, but you'll get them by May 1st, you can still apply while you're waiting for your scores. Does that make sense? Okay, great. Any other questions? I am looking at the time and it is about 1 o'clock. So for those of you who may have to step away either for class or other commitments, I just want to take a moment to thank you for joining today's session. Please be on the lookout for the email, for the copy of the PowerPoint, a recording, a link to the recording, and then some just additional resources for you. For those of you who still have additional questions, feel free to stick around and I'm more than happy to answer any of those additional questions. I see a question, and forgive me, but your screen name is listed as iPhone. But the question is, when do group interviews take place? Great question. So within 2 weeks after the deadline, all students that submitted an application will be contacted with the dates and times of the group interviews. And the group interviews take place via Zoom. After the group interviews, it does take the department about 4 to 6 weeks to review all applications and make their admission decisions. You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, I was wondering, does this session count towards the requirement for if I was applying for spring 2024, or would I have to attend another orientation session closer to that deadline?
Well, for these orientations, any student is welcome to attend one session or another session just to kind of refresh. But let me take you back real quick to our website, because the orientation that's required for admission is the program orientation. And for that one, I think it's good for a year. So let me take us back here. So item number 10, this is a different orientation and that's required to be admitted. So down here, I know they're not listed for multiple or single, but I think there should be one in March. I just don't know the date. if you attend that one and you apply for spring 2024 admission, that one should still be good.
Got it. Thank you.
Mhm.
Is there any option? Oh, it's a Zoom meeting, right?
It is, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Dominic, I see a question for you. Are applicants typically denied based on their group interview? The department will take everything into consideration. So they look at the application, all of these 11 items, as well as the group interview and the on-demand writing sample. So it's a combination of everything they take into consideration when they make their admission decisions. Maria, go ahead. I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, hi. I have a question. I have a bachelor's degree I obtained in Mexico, and
Okay,
I'm interested in the multiple subject teaching credential.
okay.
I just want to know if that bachelor's degree is eligible to go and take this program.
You do have to have it reviewed. You have to have, so anyone who has transcripts from another country outside the United States, they do have to have their transcripts evaluated. I don't know if you've already gone through that process.
Right. Yes, I did it, and they were credited by a company,
Okay.
but it's also credited by NACES.
There is, so the commission does have an approved list. Let me see if it'll take us there. As long as the company is on the list, then whatever the outcome of that evaluation, the program will look at. So on the screen, this is a list of all agencies approved. Do you know the name of the company?
Yes, it's International Education's Evaluator,
Let's see.
IEE.
I don't know if that one's, I don't see it on the list. So if it wasn't done by one of these companies, you'll have to have it done by one of these ones.
Okay.
And then when they do the review, they'll tell you this degree is equivalent to either a bachelor's degree in the United States or a master's degree or whatever what they determine by the evaluation.
Okay, thank you.
But as long as the evaluation comes back with a bachelor's or higher, then yes, you can apply to the teacher credential program.
Right. Do you mind sending that link to us?
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Very much.
You're welcome. I'll put that in the chat. And then the only other thing, Maria, just for anyone who's done the degree outside of the United States, or if the program was completed in a language other than English, then the applicant has to show English proficiency when they apply. So I don't know if that applies to your situation, but I wanted to share that in the event that it does apply.
Okay, and that is done through a like a special kind of test, or
That can be done through the TOEFL or I think it's the IELTS. There's also, I think, additional options on the Office of Admissions website. Let's see. Sorry, I come to this more often than I realize, and the English proficiency requirement might be, here we go. So any of these, they'll accept. But then also too, you can also take a look at, there's the English proficiency waiver, depending on the country that the degree was earned.
okay.
Let me put that in the chat as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Well, I just want to thank you all for attending. It's been my honor and privilege to speak with you today. Please be on the lookout for the email that I'll send to you. And then if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to email me anytime.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Thank you. You
Okay.
too.
You're welcome. Have a great day, Maria.